What is up, guys? Happy Halloween. Ponyville Chaos 577 back again. And yeah, I said I was only focusing on only reacting to My Little Pony Season 5 episodes because of how I was feeling in the last video. But I came across this Creepypasta story called My Little Pony SNES. Now, I took a quick little peek at my friend Ponyville Ranger's reaction to it. And the video got intense enough where I'm like, okay, I'm stopping it here. I don't want to spoil the rest of it for myself. I'm just going to react to it. And yeah, since it's Halloween, I want to react to something scary, and creepypasta is often the perfect ingredient for that. So without further ado, let's just dive into this and see what it brings. Alright, My Little Pony SNES. That's weird. 3, 2, 1, start. Okay, I like this piano thing.
I never thought anything strange could come from this day. On a rather sunny day, I filled up the trash bin next to my street with the garbage that had been filling my home. I knew that the dumpster truck would be around soon to empty it, as it always has been every day. And seeing as I had nothing else to do with the morning, I decided that it would be the proper time to go for a quick 5-minute jog to the next block downtown. In fact, the temperature was the perfect spot so that I never really got too hot till the end of my jog. As I was walking back to my home as part of the cool down, I was shocked at what I found. The trash in the bin had not been picked up, but rather was strewn all about the street.
Why?
Bark's root beer cans were littered around the bin in a circle, along with various other bits of debris, and the black trash bag that I had placed the unwanted material into appeared to be emptied completely and was just laid on top of the can. Wondering what could have happened, I began to clean up the unexpected mess. However, as I was about to place one of the Barks cans back into the bag, it seemed as if the sack wasn't completely empty. I curiously peered into it to find an old Super Nintendo cartridge. I didn't remember throwing out something like that recently.
Kind of NES?
In fact, every SNES game that I had ever bought before is sitting in my basement. I figured maybe whoever littered the trash everywhere did this, so I took the game out and examined it. What was on it surprised me. I know there's a lot of stories about games that have labels torn off or just suspicious-looking cartridges to begin with. However, this label actually seemed professional in the making. The only thing off about it was the premise of this game as shown by the label. The title of the game was simply My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, similar to how it's titled just by the show's name on the iOS game. The Generation 4 character models were even present on the cartridge as well. Twilight Sparkle, Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, and all of the other main characters were present. This was especially odd since this version of the show came out in 2010, which was way after the time of anyone making SNES cartridges for a profit. I then thought back to a particular game known as Battle Kid for the original NES. Someone had actually programmed that for an old system long after it was abandoned by most developers. In fact, the guy was even selling a physical copy of it to people for a small profit. After remembering this, I figured maybe it was some fan developer that wanted to share his or her creation with someone else. I was rather curious as to why it had to be done in such a messy manner, though. They could have just left the game on my doorstep. I would have gladly sat down to play it.
Yeah.
As I was beginning to walk back into my home, I noticed that the back of the cartridge didn't feel as smooth as it should have. My fingers slid over a rough patch somewhere. I flipped this supposed game over as I noticed one piece of tape on the back. In black marker and almost seeming as if it was in Times New Roman font, it read, "I'm sharing the magic. Signed, T.S." T.S.
What the hell is TS?
Those are the same initials as those of Tara Strong,
What?
the voice actor who's Twilight Sparkle within the show that this game is based on.
Yeah, Tara
I thought
Strong
it
has
was
been pretty
cool that
suspicious
whoever
sometime
made
on
this
Twitter,
has also gotten
but
the approval of one
what's she up to now?
awesome voice actor as well. I remember seeing a saying somewhere once before that described, "Whatever Tara Strong touches turns to gold."
Yeah.
And seeing as I've yet to see anything terribly bad come out of whatever she's a part of, I thought that saying would have some merit in determining how good this game really was. I think I've rambled enough about how I managed to come across this game. I think it's time to describe what came from playing it. When I first booted it up, I was surprised to see that the 16-bit sprites within the game actually closely resembled
no, I see the Lesson
what
Zero
the 6
Twilight
main ponies
Psychopath
in the show
face
look
appearing
like.
again.
They were
Oh my
sitting
God,
in front
not
of what
again.
is Fluttershy's home in the show.
This haunted me ever since I first became a
They
brony.
seemed
Please
to be
no.
relaxing with a nice little picnic. Twilight was reading another book as usual. Fluttershy seemed to be resting
can't look
along
at
with
this
her
much
pet bunny
longer.
Angel. Rainbow Dash could be seen just lying down on her back with some sunglasses on. Pinkie Pie seemed to be focused on, waiting for something to come out from underneath the picnic rag. I don't know. She's hard to figure out the show,
Definitely a
too.
Scarrow, right?
Rarity and Applejack just had their backs against a tree. All this was covered with the classic logo which read, My Little Pony. Most impressive yet was the audio.
I like the
There's a
remix
classic
for the
remix of
Smile song, but still,
Pinkie
that
Pie's
face,
Smile
get it out of
song
my
from the
face.
show, which is one of my favorites of all time. It always seemed to cheer me up on my worst days, and hearing it through an SNES sound chip was just beautiful.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
I knew this game actually had some effort put into it. After I was getting over the beauty of the Smile track, I pressed start to start the game. The first few screens explained the basic controls that I would have to use to get past certain obstacles. If anything, the gameplay was similar to what Trine had to offer, in which you would have to use all of your characters to get past certain obstacles.
Okay.
For example, Rainbow Dash would be necessary to remove thunderclouds and fly over things, while Fluttershy could be used to tame and walk past any large living creatures that you would happen to run past. Of course, the inanimate objects, along with several other threats, Twilight was always there to work her magic. Pinkie Pie was able to launch a party cannon attack, which somehow managed to turn enemies and projectiles into some sort of cake batter. Applejack's main purpose was bucking all the apples out of a tree for more food in the event that your party's health got too low. Apple trees were very rare in this game, though. They would only provide a maximum of 3 apples when bucked. And Rarity was simply used for the majority of stealthy portions of the game, in which you would have to get past a guard or avoid being detected, as you had to use one of several of her outfits to blend in with your surroundings. Now that I got that lengthy description out of the way, it's time to describe what's truly frightening about this experience. After playing through a majority of these levels for about an hour, I came across a level simply titled Stage 16. Stop. I thought that was odd. The way stop was written was also unnerving, as it almost seemed small drops of blood were dripping from each of the red letters.
Stop living
as the
or
level
something?
faded into view, I was horrified by what I saw.
What?
Dead, lifeless trees that seemed more like Nintendo 64 graphics were appearing on the screen. The sky was also blackened with a slight hint of red. The ground that I had been walking on was gray instead
I can't stand looking at that
of the
face.
lively colors that I had seen before. The character who was on the screen was Fluttershy, who seemed more worried than usual. The freakiest part of all this was the playing of the Smile song in reverse. This version wasn't even the 16-bit version from the title screen. It sounded like an actual instrumental of the song just played in reverse. I was beyond words at this point. Whoever made this game was a sick, twisted individual. Confused why there was a sudden change of atmosphere,
why was Tara Strong
I decided to move forward, only to see a giant, bony black hand come out of the ground and grab Fluttershy. She was crushed within the same instant, blood running into every direction. The game had never been this graphic with a character's death before.
Even if I can't see
fact,
it, even
there was never
any
blood in the event that a character had temporarily fainted. Deciding to try a different approach to overcome the obstacle of the hand, I thought that I could use Rainbow Dash to fly well above and over it. However, to my horror, the hand reached up all the way to the blackened sky and still crushed poor Dash with that same grip that had gotten the best of me before. Maybe Pinkie Pie would help me accomplish something with an instant stroke of luck. Nope. She was crushed into a giant pool of blood as well. I tried switching to Twilight to see if I could use her magic to get across, but the game was bugged and would not let me at this point. I thought maybe I could use Rarity to get across with a camouflage disguise of sorts.
That Twilight face is making me think somebody's going to come back behind me and snatch me like she's going to come here.
I tried switching to Twilight again, but she still wasn't selectable. Applejack was my last hope. Of course, she was crushed as easily as someone would bite into a single apple. I had given up all hope of beating this game, when the game suddenly put Twilight into control. In fact, I was no longer pressing any buttons. Twilight was just casually strolling past the spot where the other 5 members of my party were brutally crushed as if they were toothpicks. After she reached the edge of the screen, a dialogue box appeared.
What did it say?
Princess Celestia was right. Friends really do come in handy when you need them.
What?
After I pressed A to remove the dialogue box, the reverse smile song had stopped.
Use them?
And it was dead silent for about 10 more seconds. Then another dialogue box appeared.
Their potential was exceedingly great. It even felt so good to possess it for myself. I feel as if I can accomplish anything now.
What kind of sick madness was this? This was not the Twilight that I knew from the show. She would never harm her friends just for her own personal gain. Would she?
No.
Then Twilight turned directly towards me. I could see a red pixelated glowing in her eyes as she just stared at me intently.
I'm only merely doing what you've been doing this whole entire time. I'm using my friends as a means of escaping my current life. You've grown bored of your own life in the same way I have mine.
That's true.
It's time to move on.
Using them?
It's time to kill myself.
How is anything that she's done even remotely compared to my feelings? Almost as if in response to my question, she's answered.
Your own life is empty, as was mine. You turned elsewhere to keep yourself entertained.
My life was ruined before I became a boy.
Needed a purpose. I found mine.
The scariest part of this, everything she's saying is true. Everything to my life compares to what she's saying. I don't want her to be right. A very disturbing image of Twilight was with an unsettling smile, just like the one scene in the episode of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic titled Lesson Zero. So fucking good, and I like it because it's Halloween, but at the same time,
shivers down my spine when I saw it in the show. But this far tops what that detailed. Everything about this seemed as if a real-life photograph had been snapped with a high-quality camera.
The magic.
Her eyes were completely missing. Beyond each of the sockets was just a black void.
Oh, God.
The mouth was almost toothless. There was no tongue or any other features within it.
Yeah, I can tell.
Just a black void.
Get it out of my face. I don't want to look at that.
And at this point, text just splattered across the screen, almost as if each letter stroke was carved with a bloody knife. Text read,
I'm sharing the magic.
Yeah, right. You're not the real Twilight I know. What have you...
At this point, a loud, ear-piercing scream suddenly came out of my speakers. I covered my ears in a vain attempt to block out the sound, but it was still coming through. I fumbled with the power button on the SNES for a few seconds, and the sound finally stopped as the game was shut off.
Good.
I ejected the game cartridge, and I left it sitting on my kitchen table.
So...
I knew that I had to share this experience with anyone,
because those screams
and I needed
real.
all the proof that I could get to show everyone my case was real. However, I felt really tired despite the time only being about 1 in the afternoon. So I figured a quick nap wouldn't hurt me too much.
He's gonna have a nightmare, isn't he?
During this quick nap, I happened to have a strange dream. I felt like I was walking down a street in my original hometown of Ballville, Connecticut. I was just casually walking down the street when I stopped in front of someone's trash bin.
Oh no, not again.
I madly ravaged through the person's trash receptacle for whatever strange reason, littering all kinds of trash here and there. I also happened to take something out of a bag that I had somehow been carrying. That something was the cursed cartridge that I managed to come across earlier. And so far, the front label looked normal.
Just put a sticky bomb on it, run away, and then detonate it.
Then it mutated into the shape of the frightening image of Twilight that I described earlier. And then find out why Tara Strong
was involved in this.
Scared to even look at it for more than a few seconds, I dropped the cartridge and ran away from the residence as fast as I could. And when I woke up from the stream, I was relieved that I was still in my house. However, the oddest part was that looking at my kitchen table, I noticed that the game was missing.
What?
But I could have sworn that I had left the game there. As I was madly searching around my home, I got frustrated and knew that it was futile to try searching for the game. But I was getting more and more stressed out with every minute. So I decided to take a break and check my email. My mother had sent me an email detailing a strange incident that happened to her home that morning.
What happened?
Someone had gone and messed with her trash just like what had done with me earlier. She made no mention of a game, though. However, I knew that she probably thought the game was just more garbage. She wasn't very interested in gaming to begin with. I didn't bother asking her about it, as it seemed like a weird question coming straight out of left field at the time. Plus, there was the slight fact that what I had dreamt about was actually what I had done. I don't know where the game is right now. Maybe it finally got hauled off to the dump where it belongs. Maybe my mother got a crazy idea to actually play it, and now she had to suffer the same torment that I did, while involuntarily passing it on to someone else.
Yeah,
Wherever
take
it
that
is,
face out of here.
be careful when you're playing it. If that Twilight had enough power to control people's actions in the real world, then who knows what she'll be capable of doing soon.
Well, Twilight's not real. She's a TV show character, so I can't really say she's really going to do anything. Is it a... No, I have to get that face out of my mind again. If this story was real, I want to ask one thing. Why was Tara Strong involved in this? Or did somebody just write it there to make it think like it was by the actual voice actor? I hope it wasn't actually her, but if it was... Look, I've seen like Tara Strong like troll some people on Twitter or some other sites, but for some reason I let that off. But seeing her be part of something like this, I literally find this more disturbing than Smile HD and Cupcakes. I'm sorry, the pink Bridget, I think your name is, if you're watching this video right now, but I think this story is a lot more scarier than those. And what's even more scary, I want to talk to you guys about now. Those things that Twilight was saying, great, now I can't even remember what she said. When she said, when she was just using her friends for her own game. That's not the real Twilight we know. And I don't know if the story's real or not, but I take a lot of things seriously. And knowing that Tara Strong may have been part of this really worries me. The scariest part is those things that Twilight were saying are kind of true. That part where I think she said, you wanted to leave your old life behind for something better, like you wanted a purpose. And that other line where she says, now it's time to move on. I'm not supposed to tell you guys much about my life until when I release my Bronies 2010 to 2017 movie, and I'm going to be releasing the trailer for that very soon. My life was horrible and falling apart before I became a brony. Not like in a natural disaster occurred in my town. No, I live in Ottawa, Canada. It's very safe up here. No, I'm sorry if I'm stuttering around. I'm literally getting chills down my spine. Considering it's so dark, I think somebody might come out and snatch me, but... Oh great, now I'm lost in thought now. My life was horrible and falling apart before I became a brony. I've told you about all the problems with school, and something happened before that really made me sad for a while, but I'm not going to talk about it because it's for the movie, but what was very creepily clear, not only scary, but just creepily clear about what Twilight said during those lines. She was kind of right about my life. I was a very depressed person before I became a brony. Being a brony is literally the only thing that'll make me happy now. And when she said it's time to move on, when the brony fandom ends and falls apart, I'll have nothing to live for. I move on to being 6 feet under a grave, killing myself afterwards.